better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them
Well, Rob,
dice.
we're back. We've got another piece of our rod.
That's right.
We're both holding pieces of rod. Don't think too much about that.
We've got two whole pieces of a rod. We need 5 more. We're no longer on the eve of ruin. We are ruined. We've been ruined, and it's time to talk about part 2, which is really parts 4 through 11 of Vecna, Eve of Ruin, D&D's final adventure for 5th edition. Please listen to part 1 if you haven't already. You could jump in here, but I promise you it'll make a lot more sense if you listen to part 1. And this is Dungeon Master of None.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
And I'm Dungeon Master Rob. And yeah, last time we saw
2 Dungeon Masters ruined by rod.
we got through 2 of the 7 MacGuffin quests to assemble the rod. We spent a lot of time just griping about the setup of this adventure, but now we're gonna be disciplined. We're going to get through the rest of the multiverse, and then we're going to tell you what we think of this whole thing and what you can do with it if you wanted to do something with it.
And again, spoilers for this adventure, and our approach is to call out modules when they don't work. And, at least for me, I'm always judging stuff on, will this be fun for my table? Which means, do my players have permission to explore and have agency and do fun things? So
yeah, to be clear, we have a whole lot of metrics, and one of them is this enjoyable or interesting for me? And I will give lots of modules a pass if they do something neat, but it's important. The 2 most important things are, would this be fun to play in, and would this be fun or at least not unpleasant to run as a game master? So far, Vecna, Eve of Ruin has failed both of those metrics. There's lots of other places where it has failed, but most importantly, I don't think that this is a very good adventure to either run or to play in. So if you hear us being critical, understand that those are the sort of the reasons why we are approaching it this way.
And of course, our obligatory apologies. Last time on Vecna, Eve of Ruin, I said Koss knows where all the parts of the rod of 7 parts are, and in fact he only knows where the first one is, and so I got that wrong. All right, on to chapter 4, that ruined Colossus. Ruined Colossus Eberron.
It's weird. It starts with two vast and withered trunk. Yeah. Anyway, no. It's Eberron. Everybody, it's Eberron. We're in Eberron.
Here's your 1 second summary of this one. 1 sentence summary of this one. The players open a portal on a valley in Eberron's Mournland, a monstrosity and undead filled country. There's a bunch of giant robots. They don't know which one the MacGuffin is in. They can go talk to 2 opposing groups of NPCs, some racist veteran scavengers and some vaguely religious Warforged scavengers. They have to go get a second MacGuffin to find the first MacGuffin, and then they go into a dungeon in the giant robot while pursued by agents of the Lord of Blades. Then they go back to the portal.
Matt mentioned in the last episode that this adventure often adds a MacGuffin to get to the MacGuffin, and wouldn't you know it, they've done it again in this one. You can't just go right to the rod. You have to find a docent first, which are little small robots that control the big robots, and you need to attune your rod. You know what I mean? To the docent to find the next piece of the rod.
People are going to say we don't like this adventure because we can't attune our rods together. And that is not true, listeners. Rob and I have been attuning our rods.
The funny thing about this is, there's a lot of fun. Okay, all right. Where do I want to start with this? Point 1. The 2 opposing groups, right? You have these Siren veterans. They're looking for gear or something. That I don't know.
They're looking for things from their nation to sell to make money.
Yeah, that seems
provide
dumb.
a new life for themselves. They're also racist. They don't
They're
like
racist.
the Warforged.
They hate Warforged. This is weird because
Which is
there's a lot of
little weird, right?
Well, you and I are big fans of Eberron. We have read a lot of Eberron source material. We have spoken on this podcast to the creator of the setting. Go listen to that episode. It's nice. Keith Baker's a cool guy. I don't feel like this really understands anything about Eberron, except that there are Warforged in it. So these Siren veterans are looking for Siren artifacts to sell. There's a lot of easier ways to make money in Eberron, and the Mournland is dangerous for everybody, including Siren veterans. So this just seems like a really weird thing to do. There's lots of good reasons that you could come up with for some non-Warforged to be in the Mournlands. This is a dumb one. I don't get this.
Yeah, I also Eberron is a land of nuance and a big thing. Sire is one of the most or before it was destroyed, one of the most pro Warforged, at least as slave soldiers, countries. Again, a group of people from Sire could dislike Warforged just as much as anywhere else, but
but they were no, you're right. They were mostly on the same side, so they wouldn't have the same
the Sire used the most Warforged soldiers.
There are other nations that were on the receiving end of the Warforged, in battle, who might have better reasons to be racist toward them. So it is a confusing conceit.
You just need a better reason, right? You might, a player from Eberron might say to these people, hey, didn't tens of thousands of Warforged fought and die to try and save your country? And then maybe they could say, well, yeah, but we think they caused the mourning or something. I don't know.
No, you're right. There's reasons. They just haven't been given one. The second part of this is that I have run sort of a version of this, and I think in the conceit or of this encounter, of this interaction, right? You've got people on one side and Warforged on the other, and this is a not a failure of the setting or the writing. But, Warforged are supposed to be perhaps unsettling, or people are supposed to be concerned about them because they are instruments of war. Every player I have ever had an Eberron campaign immediately is those are my friends. I like them.
I love robots.
I love these robots. Let's be friends with them. So I can't imagine any group is going to meet these a little bit weird, a little bit fanatical, Warforged led by Mercy, and be no, I don't want to be friends with them. I want to go with the racist guys. There's just no choice here.
The second thing is the Warforged in the Valley are pilgrims. What are they pilgrims for? I don't know. They could if I was running this, I guess it would make them servants of the becoming god or something like that. But we're not really. I don't know.
It's in the first sentence, and I'll tell you, you're not missing anything. At first, Mercy speaks vaguely about the pilgrims' goals. If the characters offer aid or helpful advice, Mercy talks about the pilgrims' expeditions to the ruined colossi. Mercy then tells the characters that the pilgrims have been extracting docents from these ruins, and that the pilgrims consider the items sacred. That's it. That's all. That's all that we have to go on. Is that docents are sacred to the pilgrims? Why? Are like you said? Are they faithful of the becoming god? Do they have some sort of faith around the mourning? Are they? There's lots of really interesting faiths in Eberron that would make sense for this. But we're not really given any.
There are two major structural problems to this adventure, which is one, the players are given kind of a map with no distances. They know that the thing they're seeking is in a colossus. They search one of the colossus and they're given a clue. Someone has already, the princess is in another castle. Someone has taken this docent. They have to go interact with the NPCs that are feuding in the valley below and find, where a docent is, maybe negotiate a peace. The clues are hey, straightforward, hey, there are tracks that lead down to the valley to go get it. And then, after they negotiate this feud, they go through a dungeon that is in a giant robot. It's not a bad map for a dungeon, but if you take the structure of this overall and the opportunity we're given, which is that the players don't know exactly where the rod is because the Mournland is weird, what a missed opportunity. To me, an Eberron adventure is a little more pulp, a little more noir, right? You're going to explore the Mournlands, right? And you got to set off on an expedition. It will be risky and stuff like that. Wouldn't a better Eberron adventure like involve, hey, you know the rod is in the Mournlands, but you don't know where. You gotta like head to, it's a race to find the thing to get to the place, and you gotta hop on the lightning rail. And
you're on a train or an airship, or like you're racing to get to it. I mean, this gets to, I know we're trying to move quickly through these, but I just have a couple of quibbles that I really I can't let go. So there's a little village that you come across in the Mournlands, and you're given basically no locations, but you're given this little village, and this is where you'll have some important encounters, whatever. It has a mill and an ossuary, and those are not things that don't exist in Eberron, but like they have elevators, they have airships, they have rail that is powered by lightning magic. Sire, before the morning, was one of the more advanced nations in Corvair.
Yeah, they were Silicon Valley. They were the Dutch.
Why is it a mill? Like why is it not like like a lightning rail station or like a generator that's still functioning? Like this is so like it feels like they took a map from a different adventure and put it in Eberron. I'm so annoyed by this. It's such a small thing, but I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe there are still mills in Sire, but like, why are we in Eberron and you're just grabbing like the exact same map that you would use if it was in like the Sword Coast? I'm just annoyed about it.
Same sort of thing on the darker end. The Mournlands are the coolest, have the coolest monsters, the weirdest place. The only thing that's weird here, besides the ruined colossi, are a creature called blaze bears, right? This is your chance to go through your aberration and your undead and create a fun random table of things that can attack the players. Instead, there's blaze bears, a rock, and then scouts for the Lord of Blades, who just kind of don't like anyone here. And I was like, man, wouldn't on this, hey, let's introduce our greatest villains of all time. It's Strahd. It's, whatever. The Lord of Blades would be up on my list, but I don't think the writers are confident enough to have an adventure where the players might have to make a confrontation with Lord of Blades.
This was upsetting to me because they're stalked by Glaive, which is a good name for a Warforged, who's one of the Lord of Blades' scouts. This is cool. Like you're told to sort of like have them do hit and runs and, attack when they're weak. And that's right. Like Mournlands are full of like living spells, which is one of the cooler like conceits and monsters in any like D&D setting. But the only unique thing that you're exposed to here are the blaze bears, which are cool, but like it's a real missed opportunity.
Do you want to talk about the dungeon or other things before we get there?
Let me just finish bitching about Glaive and then we'll talk about the dungeon. Because I like this idea. I like that the Lord of Blades is present. I like that he's got some people in the area. This relates to something I complained about last time. Glaive is a CR 11 Warforged, accompanied by 2 like CR 7 scouts. You can try to hit and run. Your level 13, level 12 players will obliterate this creature in like 1 round. Like there's no way to make this threatening. You could and probably should send the Lord of Blades after them, because that would be a more challenging encounter than like this. Like you're not going to be able to make this interesting. Certainly not going to make it like threatening or challenging without a lot of extra work. Like it's just, this is, I don't know, like a petty gripe, but I'm like, your players are not going to care about like this one dude who's bothering them because it's not even remotely a threat.
Have it a race through the Mournlands where both the Lord of the Blades and who's a, equivalent challenge to level 12 characters and your party are trying to claim the Rod of 7 parts. Now, it feels like this module's like, well, if they killed the Lord of Blades, well, then he wouldn't exist anymore. Like, who cares, right? I don't know. There's just like this approach to D&D canon where the only person they could possibly kill or change or something is Strahd, who will come back as a vampire.
Who will come back, right. Like, they can't put anybody in front of the players who they might accidentally defeat because that would be too difficult to write.
It would be too cool for the players.
Yeah.
Also, but that's not canon. There's no such thing as anyway. To the dungeon.
Let's talk about Lando. Let's talk about Landro.
Landro.
The big Landro.
I thought we would get an explanation for why this Colossus's like brain is called Landro. We did not. So like it's okay like map for a dungeon, and I would, recommend stealing it.
I like this one. So there's a few things I like about this. One, it's a cool conceit. You are crawling through the body of a giant like war machine colossus. It's a pretty cool map. There's a couple of like neat bits to it. I thought this was very clever. There's anti-gravity in Landro's like joints, which is explained, like anti-gravity wells, which explains like how they're able to articulate. I thought that was like that felt like somebody who like understands Eberron is like thinking about how do we use magic to, create technology. That was really cool.
Okay, but here are some critiques.
The only thing I liked about it. There's one particular thing I really hated, and I'm going to see if Matt says it first.
Okay, there's 3 quick things to introduce to our listeners who maybe haven't read the book. There's a barrier around the Colossus because, you can see the Colossus like eyes and mouth, and I think clever players would be like, let's just fly up there and go in. You can't do that because reasons. 2, there's like a couple like weird magical effects the players can interact with, including like a pool of goo. One of the things they can do is put an item in a pool of goo. The results are the item is just destroyed. So I'm like, why would you want to do that? And then when one arm of the dungeon is entirely empty, there's nothing in it. Yeah. And then last but not least, when they finally meet up with Landro, Landro's like a eldritch engine that is actually just a giant brain. I'm a little confused with what Landro is, what he knows. So those are my overall takeaways.
It's written into the module. There are invisible barriers around certain parts of Landro. You just can't go there. There's no, this is exactly the kind of baffle that Matt was talking about last episode. This is super lazy and annoys the hell out of me. It's just real sloppy. Landro has the potential to be neat because you can get a little like gem and take Landro with you because he wants to learn. And then you could have a little like, super intelligent robot friend. That's cool.
That's fine. Yeah.
Matt's right, though. It's not clear on what he knows or why you need him or how he relates to the rest of the adventure. This is a big fat miss in general.
Even though it is mentally merged with the Colossus of the same name, Landro, the entity can't control the Colossus's systems. Why?
Unclear.
All right, before we move on, here are your 2 secrets for this adventure. 1, Kalth admits that in the aftermath of the Day of Mourning, she lost valuable magic items and gold. The items are long gone, and Kalth fears that the other veterans would reject her if they found out they once had money they desperately need. That's not a secret. That's a regret or a whoops-a-daisy, an oops. Here's your 2nd secret. Mercy was separated from their best friend, the Warford Filch. They feel guilty they haven't searched for Filch. Again, not a secret. That's just feeling guilty about being lazy or procrastinating. Also, that's the exact same not a secret we've seen in the previous adventure.
Yep. You get the next part of the rod, and then you go back to Citadel, and then where to next, Matt?
It happens all over again. We're off to the Domains of Dread, specifically Ravenloft in Chapter 5 of Return to Death House. It's just called Death House.
This one also annoyed me.
Death House? I'm just imagining Death House as a fraternity.
As a fraternity.
In Sigil. Yeah. Death House.
Death House.
No one has had more demerits than the ghouls and goblins and vampires from Death House. I am this close to putting you on super triple probation.
Keen, listeners may recall if they've run it or listened to our episodes on it, that the very first adventure or very first part of Curse of Strahd is Death House. Wow. Isn't this clever? You're returning to Death House.
Now,
it's not clever.
Did you like the original Death House, Rob?
I did. I think it's a very good adventure for first level characters. I think it is a super great introduction to Barovia, to the Domains of Dread, to Ravenloft. I think it's a really, really well designed dungeon and adventure. I think I've run it 2 or 3 times. It goes really well.
The reason behind that, at least in my opinion, I think you might agree, is that it's a free flowing dungeon of mini stories that as you explore it, you learn the story of the dungeon, right?
Yes.
Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah,
I've never
yeah,
run
there's-
Dead House, but I played in it.
There's spooky children and a family with dark secrets, and
You figure out what happened,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the things connect to other parts of the dungeon.
Yep.
We're back using the same map. Does any of that happen? Can
No.
you learn the story
No.
of the Death House in this
No.
version?
there's nothing to learn. There's nothing of interest. There is still a family, but there's nothing really going on with them. I guess they're cultists, whatever. Again, I don't suppose it matters, but like if we're talking about like, you're running your players through a dungeon, there's nothing challenging about this dungeon. Like there's no monsters that are encounters. There's not really any puzzles. Like, and again, if you're first level and you can't fly or teleport or whatever, and you have 8 hit points and you're at risk of dying, this is interesting, right? Because it's frightening, both like in terms of theme and in terms of this monster could kill any of us at any time. It does not work at 14th level or whatever we're at now. There's nothing that's remotely compelling. You're just going to be like bumbling from room to room, blowing up whatever you encounter, and trying to figure out how to get to the next location.
In this adventure, the players show up in Ravenloft. There's an angry mob. There's an Ulmist Inquisitor. They have to do a negotiation. They say, hey, the rod's in the Death House. Go get it for me. I'll go in there with you. They can discover the rod. And then after they do that, there's a bunch of kind of railroad encounters. And then Strahd shows up and they have to negotiate or fight with Strahd to leave the Death House.
I do sort of like what happens at the end of Death House. This is a nice twist. I was really not invested in this adventure at all, but you get to the bottom, you figure out what's going on, and then Strahd shows up and pulls a Castlevania on you, and you're suddenly, you have to go through his haunted house of mirrors to get out. And you didn't like it?
I did not like this.
You didn't like it? Okay, that's fine.
I get why it's like, hey, here's the twist. Strahd's here now, and like we're being hunted by Strahd's putting us through the paces, right?
Yeah.
I think that's an okay idea. But the execution of each of those is incredibly lacking, right? You can, if you try and leave, you're just shunted back into the Death House after paying a hit point tax. In his House of Mirrors, right? It's essentially guess what I'm thinking, and if you fail, you pay a hit point. Like, let me give you an example, Rob.
Some of these are better than others. Yeah,
you're my player, I'm the DM. Ghostly recital, right? You're all of a sudden you appear seated in an ornate chair in a parlor. Ghostly figures listen to a pale man play the harpsichord in a haunting elegy. They listen to the song with rapt attention. Rob, what do you do?
Who knows? Literally, who knows?
If you move at all or do anything, the character who's playing the harpsichord stops and you get attacked. If you don't finish playing the harpsichord, you take damage and are shunted out. If you stand there, Rob, as a player and do absolutely nothing, congratulations, you passed the test. The same thing happens, but you didn't lose 11 hit points. Who care? Why?
Who care? In one of them, you have to like lie down in a coffin. In one of them, you got to drink from the right chalice. Matt's correct. These are not good challenges, and they're not very well written. This, at least to me, was conceptually interesting and would be easier to fix than many of the other problems. But Matt's not wrong. They're just like, guess what I'm thinking, and then you escape. You do face Strahd, which is fun.
Speaking of challenge rating, I'll point out that like a paladin of this level is going to take out half of Strahd's hit points in a single round. Maybe you want that. Maybe your players want to feel like Strahd's nothing to them. I would say cool. It's not a very challenging encounter.
No, it's not. And maybe that's fine. But yeah, it is sort of like worth remembering that I think like in the Curse of Strahd adventure where you face Strahd at the end, often not by himself and with advantages, I think what you top out at level
10 or 11.
11. And my players dumpstered Strahd in that encounter. So like, with 4 more levels, I think they would, barely break a sweat, which whatever. I don't want to complain too much about this because not everybody plays D&D to have like challenging combat encounters, but it is a big part of 5th edition, and if you're not going to bother with it, it does feel like something is being missed. So
I just hate that you took Death House to wrap up this chapter and stripped it of what made it good.
yeah,
The like interesting connections across the dungeon, the figuring out what happened to all these ghosts and cursed people, and replaced it with just roll on a random. Actually, this is our first random table.
we do finally get a random table. Yeah,
The Mournland could have really used, but in this one, it's just like you have a random encounter here, right? Good luck making a narrative out of that.
yeah, and it's not a good, unlike a lot of the OSR stuff we've been talking about. It's not a good random encounter table. It doesn't give you it's not gonna you're not gonna put anything together from it. It's just gonna feel like a random, like a video game. Like you're just literally like, here's a bunch of monsters that are appropriate to the zone.
I'll point something out to you here, Rob, is that one of the most important things in the plot of this adventure is that Kas is trying to undermine and usurp Vecna's ritual of remaking. Who gave Kas the power to do this? The dark powers of Ravenloft and the Domains of Dread.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be interesting if we could like somehow communicate, receive a cryptic vision, interact with said dark powers to get a clue about what's going on?
It would, and you'd think that they, again, how they are written in other Ravenloft adventures, they are cryptic but involved. You would think that they would either, push the players in a certain direction or give them a boon or something,
And Vecna hates the dark powers.
Yes.
Remember, they imprisoned him, right? If we're talking about fucking canon here, which I hate, but like, shouldn't the players have a chance to know that like Vecna was once imprisoned in the Domains of Dread and really
this is
fucking
just like
hates
the
dark
thing
powers, and
with
they could have a
Rolf.
chance to get an ally.
In chapter 2, like you'd think that these cosmic powers that have a relationship to and interests in Vecna would do something here, but they don't.
Yeah.
They don't. All right, moving on.
Our rods are dragging us. Rob, sorry, Dungeon Master Rod.
Dungeon Master
My apologies. When in doubt, Rob, follow your rod, and we're off to
Kryn, to the land of dragons and lances.
and the night of blue fire.
Yes.
Here's my 1 second summary of this. The players arrive near a dungeon in Kryn. They go into a big tree. They get attacked. They find a kinder werewolf that tells them to go get a fruit. Dryad immediately shows up and gives them the fruit. They take the fruit and give it to a big wolf so that it stops attacking other werewolves. And then the werewolves tell them to assault a dungeon and disrupt a ritual, which they do, and they get the rod.
I have not a whole lot to say about this chapter. I like Kryn and Dragonlance, and we've talked about it more recently because they've been releasing new stuff. There are a lot of interesting things that happen on Kryn and in the Dragonlance novels and Dragonlance adventures. None of those are present here. I don't care about these werewolves and their werewolf problems. I'm not interested. I don't like all the I don't want to do anything with any of these people. I want to get the rod and go to the next place. I'm bored.
It would be, I think, a Kryn adventure, right? If we're like, hey, let's get a little taste of our greatest hits. Like, why don't you go fight an evil dragon army or something?
Yeah, why don't
like
you?
that?
You're in a battle, and the other side is using the Rod of Seven Parts in their battle strategy, and you have to participate in a big set piece battle. That would be a Dragonlance adventure, right?
Now, the 3 moons matter to the dungeon, and you have to use the moon's light to disrupt the ritual.
This is the sort of interesting part of the dungeon. You can align the beams to disrupt the ritual. It's not well implemented, but it's it's interesting. I don't know.
I got so confused.
Yeah, I got confused too, Matt. But I guess if you're really into Dragonlance and you know about the moons, you might feel very oh boy, I know what to do. If you don't, I'm not sure that you're gonna really get this or care.
There's a couple things in the background. So the person doing the ritual is an evil mage wearing red robes. Rob, shouldn't evil mages, they're describing their stat block as lawful evil, be wearing black robes? In the world of Dragonlance, if you're a wizard and you become evil, don't the gods change the color of your fashions for you?
I think so.
But the thing that threw me off from the beginning is getting the piece of fruit to distract a giant wolf that's attacking werewolves. I was confused for two reasons. Why do big wolves like fruit? I thought wolves eat like elk and stuff. And then second, why is this big wolf attacking werewolves? Shouldn't they be friends with a big wolf? And if they're not, could I get a reason why? I was just confused by the wolves, fruit, werewolf dynamic.
Yeah, I remember also being confused by this. When you show up and this Borthak is attacking the werewolves, and you're not given any reason or what a Borthak is. It's just a big wolf. I don't know.
It's a big wolf. It lives in the tundra areas of Krynn. That's what I read. The other thing I was confused about is there's an evil fortress that was maybe once good. It's not a bad map for a dungeon. The players are given, for some of the first time in a while, a little bit of leeway in how they want to assault the dungeon. Again, teleportation magic doesn't work because of the ritual. The ritual they're trying to stop is a ritual that will make permanent the effect that is going on right now, which is causing moonlight to shine down, which makes werewolves go crazy. It doesn't seem like the most important ritual that the players should try and disrupt. The thing is, they just try and
who cares? Who care? What do I care if werewolves on one of the many planes of the multiverse suddenly always turn into I don't know. This feels like it's from a different
You're all gonna
adventure.
die. You're all gonna be under Vecna's thumb in
just
again vague time, right? I do love one of the designers said there's a real ticking clock in this adventure, and I said, is there? They also said this is one of the most off the rails adventures, and I'm guessing they mean that in the
say that. Come on.
Let's see, quoted in quoted in I believe it was Dicebreaker. This adventure is meant to be off the rails as high level as we can get. Amanda Hammond.
Whatever.
They're taunting you, Rob.
They're deliberately trying to make me mad. All right.
The last thing that confused me about this one is a dragon shows up that was the master of the mage and is mad at the mage. And then the mage and the dragon fight. I'm like, why is this dragon so mad at one failure from this wizard? Why don't we get to fight the dragon? That would be cool.
It says the dragon attacks everyone in sight, focusing foremost on Terramini, the evil wizard. I feel like the designers think that D&D players are dumb babies who, if they are ever challenged by something, would I don't know, throw a tantrum, and so they can't actually be attacked by a dragon, even though the dragon is a CR13 and they could easily defeat it, because that might be hard. I don't know. I feel
they're level 15.
I know, Matt. I agree. I'm just it feels like you couldn't just have the dragon show up and attack the people who are actually at fault. And it's what's the possible reason except that they think that D&D players are going to be cranky if they have a hard fight. I don't know.
I think they are correct that the D&D players, even if you had good D&D players, by this point in the adventure, they're so beaten down by being forced to do exactly what the plot tells them that they will be dumb and cranky.
Because
they haven't thought for themselves since maybe a little bit at that first dungeon, and then and then the rod is telling them off to Oerth, Tomb of Wayward Souls. This one is your Tomb of Horrors light, as a Sararak.
I don't actually know how it's said, but I always say Asarak.
Asarak has a little clone.
Sorry, it's Asararak. That's right. So there's another R in there. Asararak.
This is a tomb run by a clone of Asararak, Rerak. And it's like the Tomb of Horrors in that it's a classic dungeon crawl style, but it's everything's toned down. There's nothing as ridiculous.
Yeah, they made it dumb and for babies. So, I'm sorry. I'm really mad about this. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this one because it is literally just the Tomb of Horrors light,
except it looks like the Lincoln Memorial in the art.
It does. They have specifically they've included one of the more famous elements of Tomb of Horrors. Is there's a sphere of annihilation in a statue's mouth, and if you're
spoilers, just kidding, Rob. It's one of the most famous things.
I know. If your players touch it, they die instantly. This is obviously
or their hand gets
their hand, right.
Whatever, however cruel you want to be. You know?
But like, this is, you know, a classic like asshole GM thing, and we don't really like make puzzles like this anymore, but it's a thing. They've included the sphere in the mouth, but it just teleports them now. And I'm like, come on. If
there are 2 spheres of annihilation in completely pitch black rooms that the players can stumble into. Yeah. But again, it lacks that same, you know,
yeah, it's just
stumbling into a sphere of annihilation is maybe even more dumb.
Yeah, that's yeah. Anyway, there was one thing that I liked in this dungeon. there's an arena with giant like granite juggernaut, like, you know, death
bulldozer
vehicles.
golems.
Yeah. I did like this a lot. I would steal the bulldozer golems for a different adventure, but everything else in here is boring. I don't like it.
The setup is the players arrive just outside the dungeon, and there are some people fighting Kraken. They can help defend them. The people are a group led by an archaeologist. Now, Rob, like, this is me being my most pedantic here. When you hear the word archaeologist, right, you get like at least 19th century vibes.
Yep.
In Greyhawk, they're just, you know, grave robbers. They're just tomb delvers. They're adventurers, right? Archaeologist implies like a little more sophistication in like education and stuff than I feel like exists in at least how I have run Greyhawk. I feel like the designers got this confused with the Eberron chapter. An archaeologist in Eberron, 100% perfect.
I mean, specifically the main archaeologist, Leysa Matulin, is looking for stolen treasures, ancestral treasures stolen from her people. They are worth a lot of money. She's not like doing archaeology. She's just, just grave robbing, but grave robbing back. She's a good grave robber, which is fine.
God damn them for... So, Rob, both you and I know that like Gary Gygax, one of the primary authors of Greyhawks, was a biological determinist and quite a racist man in some ways, right? Yes. And in his campaign setting, he does extensive race science and race history. And the area of the map they're in, the Isle of Serpents, is in a place near the control of like the Sulawese Scarlet Brotherhood, who are basically fantasy Nazis. So goddamn the authors of this module to make me engage tangentially in my mind with Gygax's race science to determine whether this archaeologist was a Nazi or not. And no, they're not. They're clearly, by all the signifiers, their name, their art,
they're not from the Nazi.
They're flan. They're flan. But the fact that I have to know a name of a fantasy, not like human elf, but like different. Anyway, goddamn you for making me engage with the part of this that I hate the most. In the dungeon, the dungeon has a dumb LSAT puzzle of next to blue is this, next to triangle is this, none of the stars are this. Like, it's one of those LSAT logic puzzles. Fuck you for putting that in, and fuck you for putting that in and not giving me how it is solved as the dungeon master. So I will actually have to solve it myself beforehand to help my players along and solving it. Which I won't be doing because I won't be including this puzzle in any of my games.
The extra dumb part is like, I feel like it would be more satisfying if you did solve it and then like a door opened, but instead you solve it and you drink from the correct cask and then you turn tiny and slip through the floorboards, which I don't know, feels like way too many steps on top of solving this dumb logic puzzle. I also hated this part.
I did
something else that's really dumb
at the end. Sorry.
One more really dumb thing. The archaeologists want you to bring back a bunch of treasures for them. I don't know why you would give them any of these treasures, because what they're offering for them is less than what they're worth. I don't know like why you would give them back any of their shit, because I think one of the things is a manual of bodily health. Like, why would you give a manual of bodily health back to an archaeologist instead of just reading it?
Does she actually want the manual of bodily health? I think she's okay. I think she wants it like maybe she does. Damn.
It says one of the treasures Leysa mentioned earlier in this chapter. I don't know.
Maybe you can read it and then give it to her.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'm as a person and a player sympathetic to archaeologists, and I'd be willing to give them their stuff. But like, I have to be doing the math in my head. I'm like, why would I give them any of this stuff instead of just like selling it? I don't understand.
One thing I liked and one thing that was really a missed opportunity here at the end is the players discover Re-Rack, a clone of, a false lich of the more important lich Re-Rack, and Asariak, yeah, was trained by one Mr. Thomas Vecna back in the day. Is this important? Can we learn anything about Vecna from his clone or from Asariak's clone, Re-Rack? No. I did like that Re-Rack is like sad and bored and,
Yeah. And you could talk to him. Like, it's not necessarily a immediate violent confrontation that you probably will. But yeah, he's bored.
All right. On to chapter 8. Rob, we're already there, but now we're truly in hell and the Dragon Queen's Pride. Once again, a correction. I said earlier that this adventure is like 13 dungeons. It's in fact only 12 in that this one does not really have a dungeon. So, dang it. God damn it.
It's sort of got a dungeon.
It's sort of got a dungeon.
It does have a dungeon. It's just like 2 rooms of a dungeon, or like it's a very, very small dungeon.
Here's my one sentence summary here. You show up in hell. Some Irnies make you get on a Mad Max machine and do a thing with them. Then you show up at a hell casino and you are given the freedom to figure out how you get to the bottom level of the casino where the rod is. And then you're actually kind of given the freedom to figure out how you want to try and steal the rod from Tiamat's kind of casino guy, Al Pacino from Casino. And so I have to hand it to this adventure. While a lot of things are clumsily executed and a lot of this adventure is players pretending to play games in their character, which I hate, there's kind of a lot of freedom in how to approach the final half of this adventure.
Yeah, I liked parts of this a lot. Descent to Avernus remains probably my favorite adventure that we have read from this era of Wizards of the Coast, and one of my favorite parts was the Mad Max Hell Vehicle section. So I love that you show up in a bunch of Furies on their giant magical spiked dirt bike, are trying to take down a big demon. That's cool. That is like sort of like a MacGuffin, distraction, but at least it feels like a fun one. That's a fun thing for me.
The problem with how this is executed in my mind is how it's written. It is again written in theme park ride way. The players show up, the Irnies immediately say, "Hey, get in, we're going shopping," and by shopping I mean we're hunting demons in our devil bike. Wouldn't it be more interesting if you give the players a map of this section of Avernus, you create 3 factions of these like hell Mad Max riders and wandering monsters, and the players have to figure out how to build their own or steal or barter for some of these vehicles, and then after doing whatever they want to do here, they take their super fast soul powered coin to get to the casino.
Which is kind of what's in Descent for Avernus. That is how this section plays out there. You have factions, you can design your own, blah, blah, blah. You get to the Red Belvedere, which is a good name for a hell casino. I like that a lot. You meet Windfall, who's a super powerful champion of Tiamat, but also a charming, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, casino guy type of smarmy dude. And then, you're in the casino. Here's what's good and here's what's bad about this to me. And Matt.
Yes. Eventually, the characters reach the Red Belvedere, which you could do this for the whole adventure. Eventually, the players reach Vecna. Perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's run this in one encounter and be over. Go. Sorry. Continue.
The casino is a cool idea, poorly executed. Like Matt said, there's a bunch of stupid games that your players can play.
Mini games.
I don't
just play Mario Party with your friends.
I'm not opposed to a game within a game, but you need to make it interesting. You can't just be like, roll sleight of hand to see if you affect the outcome of this game of chance. That's stupid. You need to either have pared down rules so players feel like they're actually playing, or you need to like abstract it even further. Or like let them do it I don't know. I just don't do it this way.
The ones that kind of work are the arena, because it's not a game within a game. You are playing your character like fighting in the arena, or like
works.
the chariot racing to an extent, in that they can kind of decide how they might want to rig the race. But like, for example, to illustrate Rob's point, one of the games is a giant maze that like people bet on or something like that, or you can bet on yourself. Instead of there being an actual map of a maze with encounters that players could explore or race through, you do a mini game, you roll some dice and see, hey, you mazed this well. Also, there's like, we're playing a game in that there's currency. You need like talons to go down, and there's eventually. But anyway, the fun part is the players could do many of these things, and there are many different people who can invite them to the exclusive VIP room.
Down beneath the VIP section is a mini dungeon,
but it's a heist a little bit, in that there's people in the dungeon. The characters are allowed to be there. They just have to steal the rod.
So here's my problem, Matt, and it's why isn't this just a heist? Why? Like, it sort of is, but like, to me, the obvious thing to do here is like zoom out and give them like an Ocean's 11 description of like the casino and be like, you have to steal the rod.
Do whatever you want. And they could fuck around and bet on horse races and,
come up with a plan. Yeah.
We're closer to that in this adventure than we are anywhere else, but we're still not there.
This would be the easiest one to change to, I think, be more interesting to fit the sort of like theme, because they have all the pieces, but then they've added this stuff that like when the clear answer to me is, this is just a heist. Let's do a heist.
And the players are 17th level at this point. Yeah. This is the point where you create a complicated thing with lots of powerful creatures and say, yeah, you can figure it out by now. You have access to 9th level spells. Blow me away with what you can do to get this rod, and let them do it. But there's not a lot of advice on how to do that, on how to, we've talked about this before. One fun thing with a heist is to set up all the locations and NPCs and how things run and move, and then add a complication or two. They could be things the characters could discover, or maybe ones they have no way of knowing about. There's no complications that we can really throw at the players to make this interesting. Like, it's lacking. We really need a D20 table of random guests for people to impersonate, run into, show up.
We're so close to the end. Let's just try to, I want to say one more thing about
go ahead.
The Dragon Queen's Pride. I just want to highlight this a little bit. So you steal the last piece of the Rod of Seven Parts. It's in like a little layer, and there's this little paragraph at the end. There's a tunnel that leads south out of the room where the rod is, and it says, the narrow tunnel to the south eventually leads to Tiamat's lair. Oh, hey, that's Tiamat. Just like they said in the interview, Tiamat's there.
You can interact with her.
This entrance is currently guarded by Drekavernix, an ancient red dragon who demands the characters leave unless they can prove their legitimate business in Tiamat's lair. Unless the characters provide a compelling reason to enter, Drekavernix attacks them. The red dragon doesn't pursue the characters back through the tunnel to Dragon's Pride. It just feels like another like here's this character can't do anything, but they're there. Yeah. Look, it's Tiamat.
So you can like talk to Tiamat through an image, and if the characters, I think, logically bring up, hey, Vecna's going to remake the multiverse where you are subservient to him, and recreate the material plane, which you helped create. You should do something about that. Tiamat's response, which again, maybe Tiamat is not the most reasonable god, is fine, go away. I feel like Tiamat would be like, here's 5 ancient red worms for you to ride or something. Like, shouldn't she want to stop Vecna as well? Again, just like with Sarirak, just like with the Lord of Blades, just like with the Dark Powers, just like with Lolth, no one cares. You can't do anything. No one responds to the player's actions. It's fine. I will say the one thing that just made me think that not only do the writers not know how to structure adventure, they don't understand what Vecna is the god of or what secrets might be important. Let me read you another thing from this, and we might have to accept we're going long here.
No, we're gonna go long. I don't want to dwell any longer on this.
I'm sorry, listeners.
It's okay.
And I'm sorry, Rob.
I'm doing it too, Matt. It's my fault.
Devils lack remorse, guilt, and shame that would give their secrets power if revealed to characters. Okay, so devils lack guilt. I'm just reading from like basic stuff here. This is from the Wikipedia Forgotten Realms on Vecna. Vecna and his faithful believe in the power of secrets and their ultimate ability to destroy anyone, no matter how powerful. Why would devils not having guilt about their secrets mean that they don't matter to the link that the players have with Vecna? Vecna uses, in my mind, Vecna is a god who uses secrets to undermine plot and plan, both against good people who feel shame and guilt, and against embodiments of evil who have secrets that they don't want Vecna to know because Vecna could use them against them. Like, why does the guilt, shame, and remorse matter? Like, I'm just so confused.
You've made this point before. I'm not sure that they understand what a secret is. Certainly they don't understand what Vecna is the god of, but whatever.
And also, just from a meta perspective, why would you put this in? Shouldn't discover it, like, when you're a 20th level or a 17th level bard or rogue, wouldn't tricking a devil, like a high level devil, out of their most like secret be like, yeah, that's a thing a high level rogue would do, right? You're not tricking the bartender out of his secret anymore. You lied to the devil.
I agree. Okay, so you get the last piece of the Rod of Seven Parts. You go back to Sigil.
And the adventure is over.
And you did it. You won. No. So you bring the Rod of Seven Parts back to Illustrial Tasha and the imposter Mordenkainen. And this, so I'm gonna describe how the adventure works. And I just, you come back and Kaz as Mordenkainen says, "Great, give that to me. Go rest. You've earned it."
Right. Really, really convincing.
Really, yeah. And the adventure does not continue unless the players do this.
Right.
After this happens,
this is big, unskippable, and uninteractive cutscene vibes.
Yes, this has big cutscene energy. Then Kaz steals Illustrial's, teleportation power to cut a hole to Pandemonium, where he flees. There's a bunch of chaos, and you have to chase after him. I shouldn't really have to tell you or anyone why this is so stupid, but this, I've been complaining a lot, but like, those are like high level complaints. This is like, Cinema Sins would have like, a bunch of like red X's on the screen, like, plot hole, major plot hole. It's just like this does not make any fucking sense. It's so stupid. Why would your players do this? Why would you write the adventure this way? Like, it hinges on the players like suddenly forgetting like everything that they know and like having like being as like gullible as like babies. Like, it's
right.
Even if you completely trust Mordenkainen and he's like, give me the rod and go take a nap, you're gonna be like, that's weird. Why is it happening this way?
Why are we taking a nap?
We'll just wait. We'll just wait.
Why don't we just use a healing spell on ourselves?
No, we want to see what happens next. I don't know. This is so stupid.
A couple, like how Cass is then able to go to roughly the location of Vecna's ritual is, quote, after receiving a message in a dream from the dark powers, Cass realized that the magic inherent in his crown of lies would transport him through Illustriel's portal to roughly the location of Vecna's ritual, which is also where Kos has a lair and his ally Miska the wolf spider. It doesn't make any sense. The players have no way of knowing this. As you said, you have to trick your players to let Cass get away. So this feels bad in that your players feel like they've tricked them. If instead you want them to receive some clues, which there's a suspicious wife. Illustriel's wife is like, Mordenkainen's been acting weird. and then you're like, let's go
This
find
is
her.
funny
That can
because like
always trust your wife.
because
You know,
like everyone in this adventure is a fucking idiot except for Illustrial's wife, which is not intentional, but is kind of a funny bit if it were intentional. Like, you know, everyone else is like, oh, Mordenkainen. And she's like, that's not Mordenkainen. What the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, it's just, the whole thing is.
The adventure highly encourages your players to not ever try and figure out the treachery and not be able to stop Cass. And that feels bad. Or you can just let them have no idea that this is going on, which again also feels bad and makes the much vaunted and hyped twist of this adventure just like not hit. Also, I will point out that while Cass has the magic MacGuffin, the crown of lies that prevents anyone from seeing them, you know, Tasha and Illustrial have true sight. They have access to wish and all sorts of other spells. They are completely duped. And then Cass in the adventure defeats both of them, which if you look at their stat blocks, just on a 2-on-1 fight should not be possible. And the reason that Illustrial and Tasha can't help you is, quote, Cass takes Illustrial and Tasha by surprise, severely wounding them. I get that narratively that makes sense, right? Characters, I'm wounded, I can't help you. But we're playing D&D. I cast Greater Restoration.
Right.
I cast Heal.
Yeah.
I murder you, Tasha, and cast True Resurrection, restoring you to perfect health.
Because that's the spells that we have available as 17th level adventurers. Yes, I know. I agree. Sorry, just to pause for a moment on Malena, the only non-stupid person in this entire... Yes. She's like, I'm suspicious.
The Wizards 3, more like the wife 1.
And she's like, I know somebody who knows Mordenkainen here in Sigil. I'm going to go talk to Vera of Velgar's Vittles. And Velgar's like, oh, I just talked to Mordenkainen. He didn't say anything about any of this. Nobody thought to be like, hey, you know somebody in town, like, you're Mordenkainen. I'm getting a headache. I'm like, you know, nobody but Malena was like, what if I just asked one of the people who knows this very powerful wizard what he's up to? Just everybody's a moron, including Cass. Sorry.
Including Cass. Because again, let's review Cass's plan up until this point. He needs the Rod of 7 Parts to free Miska the wolf spider, because somehow that will help him.
Miska is powerful and can fight Vecna. I mean, it's dumb, but it at least sort of makes sense to me.
But again, he knows the location of one of the rods. He gets the location, tricks the players to get the rest of him. And his big plan for the Rod of 7 Parts is to say, haha, I'm Cass now, and then teleport away. Like, wouldn't a smarter villain, again, Cass has 24 intelligence, be like, all right, thanks for the Rod of 7 Parts. Let's enchant this so we can go fight Vecna. Here's your next quest. Your players at this point should be like, we're your obedient servants. And then secretly slip away to Pandemonium. Find another fucking portal there, and then no one will be the wiser.
You made a good suggestion last time, which is that Cass reveals himself, and he's like,
But you need me.
I need these wizards to beat Vecna, and you need me. So let's let's work together. And then, sudden but inevitable betrayal at the very last moment. That makes way more sense than he's pretending to be Mordenkainen.
Especially when he hasn't killed Mordenkainen or in some way imprisoned him. So we're on to the final 2 chapters. Chapter 10, we head to Pandemonium and the War of Pandemosis. Here's the quick summary. You show up, Lolth and Miska's worshippers are fighting. You can go to Lolth's headquarters. You can go to where Miska is slowly freeing himself. Or you can go to where Cass is just kind of waiting for the players to show up and stop him. And then you do all of those things, and then, now you've stopped Cass.
There's some, not like disinteresting, like dungeons and locations, and a lot of cool, like spider demons. This is not a terrible, like high level adventure.
Yeah.
I just sort of at this point, again, there's supposed to be a ticking clock, and you have to like bounce around and make friends with the Drow Mage and do all these other things instead of just going to Kaz and getting the thing you need and fighting Vecna. It all feels very like circuitous, and I couldn't really get invested, and I can't imagine my players being particularly enthused about this sub-war of a sub-war happening on the plane of chaos. It's very, yeah.
It's hard because we haven't clearly, even though we had opportunities, set up the like factions at stake here, right? Which is Vecna Lolth versus Miska Cass. Also, the ticking clock here is Miska is freeing itself from its, prison that's basically existed in for all of eternity. And there's no chance for Miska to get free because we're not given Miska will free himself after 7 days or something like that for the Rod of 7 Parts. It's just no, Miska is always halfway free until the players show up and put them back. There's no chance for the players to do anything.
There are stats for Miska.
Out.
You could have them escape and fight, and as a level CR23 creature, that might actually be a challenge, but the adventure's not written that way.
The players are 18th level. Give them a ticking time clock. And once again, we have a dungeon warded against teleportation and any useful magic. But give them a ticking time clock. If they fuck up at this point and Miska gets free, it's on them. Also, Kaz is 300 hit points. He can summon a level 1 Spectre for all of his legendary actions. He stops using the Crown of Lies to disguise himself perfectly and impenetrably as someone else, which is what I would have him do. Instead, he just hangs out as Kaz, lets the players show up, and when they do, quote, throughout the battle, Kaz taunts them for being, quote, Mordenkainen's good little puppets. Why? They've never met the real Mordenkainen. Why is he? This makes me think this was written by people completely siloed off from each other. No idea what's going on. There's some drow identical twins.
Yeah, I didn't care
twins.
about these.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
sorry for doing that. They have a cloak. Their secret is they actually want the cloak, even though they told the players they want the cloak. But the secret is the cloak is important.
It's not a secret.
Chapter 11.
You beat Kaz.
The final chapter.
You've got your rod. Your rod
He's
is
a fucking
attuned.
wet blanket. He's easy. Our rods are tuned. Chapter 11, The Eve of Ruin. Hey, that's the title of the film. Roll credits.
You get to go through a funhouse mirror house that Vecna created that shows what the multiverse would be like if Vecna wins.
These are like single scenes where the players are forced to touch an object that takes them back to reality. This could be if they were like maybe little mini adventures that took 2 or 3 sessions. Like, I've sent you to an alternate reality, Forgotten Realms, where Vecna rules, and you have to find the what's different, like a episode of Quantum Leap Sliders or something like that. That would be really cool. But no, it's a scene. Hey, Lord Neverember, he's evil. Touch his crown and go back.
There are decent ideas here. Like one of them is, Kaz is being eternally tormented in, a Vecna prison. This would especially be cool if you ran Kaz differently and made him compelling and interesting and possibly even sympathetic, because the players might
have to deal with him throughout the campaign a little bit.
You could make Kaz into like he's a villain, he's a vampire, but you could make him sort of like a more sympathetic type of villain. I
feel like he's more sympathetic than Vecna, right? Vecna's like pure evil.
Yeah. There's one where Neverember has been turned into a Death Knight, and Neverwinter is a city of undead. Again, this could be cool if your players had a real attachment to Neverwinter and didn't just like end up there at the beginning. Again, maybe,
it would also be cool if it was more than one scene. Right. They show up and they're immediately attacked, and it's like, touch the crowd. Why not give them a couple hours to explore evil Vimber? Or
the broad concept, I think, is interesting. As it's executed, you have like one like flash scene, you got to grab something and leave. And then the third one is also, again, theoretically cool. You're in the astral sea, and an astral dreadnought is like feeding on the corpses of all the gods that Vecna has killed. That's cool. But again, you just got to go find a thing and touch it to leave.
Yeah, I think a better one would be like you're in the astral sea. All the gods except Vecna and Lolth and maybe a couple other evil ones on Vecna's side are dead. And you have to navigate this and find a way to escape Vecna's mind prison. The characters who are clerics and paladins, like their gods are there instead of the god there is Habakkuk, who, in addition to being a minor prophet in the Bible, is a god from Dragonlance.
That's right. Yeah, so you go through these, again, more basically like theme park shit, and then it is to the Cave of Shattered Reflection, which it doesn't really matter at this point, but that doesn't sound very ominous to me. I would have named it something cooler. I it's Vecna's lair. Give it a better name. I don't know. That's it's a very minor complaint, but
this is not like Vecna's lair. This is a spot in the multiverse that Vecna can do his remaking. And the way the ritual works is this. Vecna draws in the secrets from his cultists. He sets aside his powers as a god. He sits in the cave, and it says something along the lines of it makes an explosion that shatters the cave and remakes the multiverse. So Vecna's making a secret bomb, which sounds cooler than it is. It doesn't seem like a very Vecna plan to me to create a bomb. Like, why is this cave on Pandemonium, the plane of war? Like, shouldn't it be, I don't know, somewhere else?
I don't know. This part, yeah, I don't know. You could have done better.
You fight Vecna, you stop him, and by stop him, you send him, whatever you do, killing him or setting off the chime of unmaking or whatever, it sends him back to Earth or Greyhawk as a normal lich, or he'll reform there as a normal lich. So you didn't really defeat Vecna. He's just no longer a god now. And the conclusion is this. I'm going to read you the entire thing that this adventure gives us on concluding the adventure. With Vecna vanished to Earth and the ritual foiled, the characters have saved the multiverse from ruin. If the characters fail, the multiverse becomes a terrible place indeed. Characters who return to the Sanctum in Sigil are greeted by Illustrial and Tasha, who immediately begin planning a magnificent celebration in honor of the characters' heroics. Though stymied, Vecna is far from undone. He might stubbornly attempt to destroy and recreate the multiverse again, or he might formulate a new scheme to bend the cosmos to his will. Either way, it will be some time before a new band of adventurers must rise to defeat the Archlich once again. Listen, we've faulted WotC Adventures before on being like, hey, do you ever want to keep playing? Here's 5 ideas. I know this one's 20th level, so, you can't, but why not? I mean, it's one page. Come on.
This is the culmination of a pretty long adventure. The end of these adventurers' careers, right? They're 20th level. They've defeated Vecna. They are at the top of their game. And yeah, you get 3 paragraphs, right? Like, give us a satisfying conclusion, what happens next, some ideas for where they might go, how they might return to their home planes. Like, I don't know. It doesn't even have to be good. Just like acknowledge the sort of like how momentous this moment is, they get a big party thrown by the wizards who didn't do anything. Like, it's just a big wet fart of an ending. And it's
I have to say the part on the unrealities also reminds me of how Call of the Netherdeep ended, where there's like these little scenes and you got to find a thing to like change reality.
Something
back.
Was familiar. Yeah, that's right. They've done this before.
Let's talk about how, okay, I'll be honest here. I think this adventure is so unfixable that you should not put the effort into running. So instead, my approach is, what if you wanted a epic adventure levels 1 through 20 against Vecna, and you wanted to steal some ideas from this? What could you use?
Yeah, I agree with Matt. And we've mentioned a few things that we would do differently. And there are some parts of this that are salvageable or more salvageable. But I cannot, unless unless you are really, really, really invested in Vecna as a villain and like a bunch of the specific things we have mentioned, I cannot in any way recommend actually running this adventure, even with heavy modification. It just if you want a high level adventure, there are better ones. If you want an epic multiverse spanning jaunt, there are better ones. That it's just this is not really salvageable. But like, yeah, I agree. Like, let's talk about what you might do instead.
Right. Yeah, the structure just doesn't work. It's repetitive. The players are led by their noses. They don't ever get a chance to be high level characters and do things for themselves with their, godlike superhero powers. The missed opportunities to tie any of this together are completely absent, and then the execution of many of the actual adventures is lacking. The secrets subsystem is stupid. And yeah, it's a giant theme park ride. What should you do instead if you want these ideas? Well, I think the one good thing here is we do sort of have three factions, right? We've got Vecna and Lolth, and I would say throw in another other alliance of various good or evil deities that are willing to ally themselves with Vecna in order to reset the universe. You have faction number 2, Kos, and the forces of pure chaos. Maybe Miska the Wolf Spider. Maybe you could throw in the Queen of Chaos, or like Primordials or Titans. If
maybe
you're using
Tiamat
those.
comes in on Kos's side, like that.
Yeah,
that would
sure.
make sense,
And then you have the faction of people who don't want the multiverse remade, which again is very interesting because it might require the players to ally with both good, neutral, and evil wizards, factions and stuff. And I think that 3 basic faction system would work to structure this campaign.
I think so too. I think that would be a good place to start. You've mentioned this multiple times, and I think it's a good point. Vecna is the god of secrets. And I think that you must do away with the magical MacGuffin. But if
the rod of 7 parts gotta go.
Doesn't matter, not interesting, who cares? You can have other MacGuffins, but like get rid of that as the central principle. But let's say that you do want to have sort of like a multiverse spanning a planescape campaign, basically, where you need to go to different planes and gather or learn something. Instead of bits of a magical rod, have it be secrets. Have it be very like precise and difficult to obtain secrets that are dangerous to Vecna, and that require the players to do something a lot more interesting. It could be dungeon delving, actually, but like have them learn things that are really like really interesting and compelling and hard to find out.
To build on that, if Vecna draws his power from secrets, and specifically like bits of forbidden secrets, forbidden lore, dare we say, Rob, canon? Then
this is one of the things I was thinking. Yes,
could be a way to weaken his power, and maybe it's an even fun meta joke about D&D.
This adventure. So here's the thing: this adventure is already kind of a little tongue in cheek, a little meta. I think if you want to run this, I think that's the right way. It can be serious, but you are kind of like winking and nodding at the whole idea of canon, and I think that's the right way to run it.
I would say for each world, for each setting, figure out what's the biggest secret of all. And the players are in a race with the agents of Vecna to obtain and either dispose or use that secret, right? In Eberron, what caused the Mournland?
That's exactly what I was thinking, right? Yeah.
In Planescape, what is the origin of the Blood War? What is the Lady of Pain's?
Yeah, what's the Lady of Pain's identity? Right, yes.
Name or identity, right? How cool. And again, the official D&D people are too big of cowards to do this.
Right.
And like, I get why they wouldn't, because these are things that are purposefully left undefined, but that's the only reason to give this stakes and meaning and interest.
Right. But we're talking about, this is the biggest of the big, right? Remaking the multiverse. Like, I actually am not super interested in this type of campaign anymore, but it is fun to run. And it is fun. You do sometimes want to save literally all of reality, but you really have to go, you have to go big. You can't it has to be grand in scale. And that, I think this is the way to do it, is that if players have to visit a bunch of planes and learn the most important or one of the most important secrets, to defeat Vecna.
I would say that instead of having the Wizards 3 as the character's patron, I would say something like the Dark Powers wanting Vecna in their grasp again, which are much spookier and less lead you by the nose patrons, would be great. Maybe Asmodeus. Maybe
I was
the
gonna say,
mysterious Queen of Chaos from the Rod of Seven Parts adventure. Something more of a blank slate, or something like the players don't trust.
I mean, the Lady of Pain might be a good one too. Like there's
Ooh.
lots of entities that are powerful and mysterious that could be more, that could push the players in the right direction, but aren't like, here's what to do. I agree that the Wizards 3 is not a get rid of that.
All right, Rob, I have a very short outline of what this adventure might look like. Do you care to hear it?
Let's hear it. No, let's hear it.
I would say in an ideal version of this, we would have gotten a level 1 through 20 adventure. If all their hype is saying, hey, this is the 50th anniversary of D&D, we're doing the biggest celebration ever. Should be the biggest adventure ever. In an ideal version, the adventures would start out and go on some typical introductory adventures, maybe run into some Vecna cultists in addition to other like plots or villains or obstacles that they could confront, overcome, and succeed, get some, wins under their belt.
Yeah.
You could still have them linked to Vecna somehow. This is not a bad idea. I like the idea that around the time the adventures begin, the players know the secret of Vecna's plan, but instead of the twist being Koss is replaced their quest giver Mordenkainen, how about something like this? So they get around to where this adventure begins, level 7, 8, 9, or 10. And again, you could use the same thing. A wish spell or a summon takes them to Sigil. The Wizards 3 have assembled the greatest group of adventurers ever assembled. They explain to hundreds or thousands of adventurers from across the multiverse that Vecna is on the verge of remaking reality. And if they choose to participate, they can help stop them across countless planes and material planes across the multiverse. They hand out the assignments like, hey, it's fucking D-Day. You're going to a cult of Vecna and you're going to stop them. The players do so. They go and stop the cult of Vecna. They show back up at the meeting for a big party to be like, hey, didn't we all stop Vecna? And the Wizards 3, everyone else in the multiverse, when they tell them about this, they're like, what? Did we do that? And you're like, no, Vecna, he's a lich. And they're like, who? Vecna? Like they could read the name Vecna in a book and immediately in 3 minutes, they would forget it. Somehow, for everyone in the multiverse, except for the player characters and maybe like Koss and the Dark Powers, all the gods, Elminster, Tasha, no one can remember who Vecna is. Vecna's thing succeeded except for, plot reasons. Maybe the characters used the Well of worlds to go there. Like they got left out of Vecna's epic spell. Vecna succeeded in part 1 of his plan, hiding himself so no one can stop him, except for the player characters and our favorite person, Koss. How's that for a twist?
That is a much better twist. And this gets to the third sort of like general thing that I was thinking that I complained about at the beginning, is that Vecna and his cult needs to be present and active throughout this adventure. And, what you just described is like much better. This is that's a great twist. And it just sort of like, Vecna is powerful, smart, and like, incredibly like, ancient, and he should not be like some dipshit who's just sitting around in his cave of reflections. Like he should, I don't know, he never feels threatening, right? And the way you described it, he feels threatening. I think that's just like whatever you do, he has to be like an actual threat to both the players and the multiverse. That the whole ticking clock thing was designed to make me angry, because at no point is he going to succeed in this adventure. No. And he's not a threat, but this way he would be. Yeah.
And then this way, the onus is on the player characters. Hey, y'all, we're the only ones who can stop Vecna, because everyone else, when we explain Vecna's threat, they're like, oh God, wow, we better stop Vecna. And then 2 minutes later, they forget, right? Because Vecna has already done a thing. And then, okay, you're level 10 or whatever, you're ready to do this part of the adventure, except there's too many things. 7 is too many. They're all too short to be developed. I would pick your 2 or 3 favorite campaign settings, right? You want to do Eberron, you go to Eberron and you have to find the secret of the Mournland and the Day of Mourning before Vecna's agents. And it's a several session adventure instead of a 1 or 2 shot. Where, how about, Rob, imagine if the Eberron adventure was something like this. The players find a way using their Well of Many Worlds to show up in Eberron. They show up in Sharn, and, in front of them, someone's like, murder, right? And there's a dead body. And like, they can start investigating. They have to solve a murder, and then they have to go on an adventure to confront the Lord of Blades. And then they discover the secret of the Mournland is hidden in a temple in ancient Sindric. And they go on, a noir adventure, a scary adventure, and then a pulp adventure. And they have a fun 10-session arc in Eberron. And then choose your second favorite campaign setting and do something similar.
I mean, that's sorry. Now I'm thinking about something like that's the problem that highlights the issue with this adventure, is that there's a really fun way to run this. There's many really fun ways to do this exact idea. And what they have presented us with is not fun at all. And that's what I think was so frustrating about reading this.
And then I would say, after you do those 2 or 3 adventures, have a thing where the players can get the Uber artifact, the Chime of Awakening, or make a deal with Koss or something like that. Something that will disrupt Vecna's ritual. Send him back to Oerth. And then the conclusion should be Vecna, robbed of all of his powers, his godhood. He's still a 20th level lich, and he's back in his domain in Oerth, and the players have the chance to go and assault his fortress there. And then that would be the conclusion, destroying him, unmaking him for another generation. Cool.
That's great. That's again, a much better adventure. However, gotta say,
not the one we got.
I'm not sure that it resembles this adventure at all. And you're already basically like building it from scratch. So unless you really like Vecna as a villain, you might as well just choose your own, multiverse ending threat and go with that. But well, and that's just
Rob,
not what we got.
It's not what we got. I do not think there is the amount of work you have to put in to fix this adventure is extensive. So this one's not every published module needs work that has to be done. This one is just too much work. And for the things I value at my table, player agency and letting them, come up with what they want to do and how they want to solve a problem and how they want to approach things, there is just not any of that in this adventure. I would get frustrated as a GM running it, and I feel like my players would get frustrated playing it.
I can't imagine anyone really enjoying this. It's
I think some people will. They just play the game differently than me.
That's true. I don't know. I don't know.
Rob's like, some people will enjoy this. Parentheses derogatory.
That's exactly right. All right, we've talked about this for almost 3 hours at this point. I don't know that
sort of a celebration of D&D writ large.
I don't know that there's anything else to add. I do hope that you all found this interesting to listen to, and you can learn from our mistakes and from Wizards' mistakes. I want to believe that that maybe someday we'll get better. I am not optimistic about 6th edition or 5.5 or whatever we're calling it now. If this is what the most hyped adventure in the history of D&D has turned out to be.
I do think it is fitting in that in previous editions of D&D, near the end of the adventure, there's often a really big adventure that involves Vecna, and it has always sucked. So, you know,
That's
it's
true.
like it's
That's a good point.
continuing the legacy. And I appreciate that, right? It's not anything new to specifically these writers. WotC or TSR has often put out bad adventures involving Vecna.
That's true.
Let's
We're just
add one more to the shelf.
Back in form. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed us talking about why an adventure doesn't work, which I guess some of you do, thank you. You can drop us an email at dmofnone@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at dmofnone. And of course, you can head over to patreon.com/Dungeon Master of None if you want even more episodes of this show.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and keep rolling them dice.
Don't you understand what I'm trying to say? And can't you feel the fears that I'm feeling today? If the button is pushed, there's no running away. There'll be no one to save with the world in a gray. Take a look around you, boy. It's bound to scare you, boy. And you tell me over and over